Добрый день, дорогие друзья! Всем привет из Мичигана. Очередное кукинг-шоу от Сергея и Шерил. Сегодня мы будем готовить красный борщ, или, как говорят в Украине, буряковый борщ, свекловый борщ. Этот рецепт моя жена выучила, узнала в Киеве, когда она гостила от моей матери. И она его немного переделала, сделала американскую версию. То есть вот наши составные ингредиенты. Carrots, да, морковка, но она уже порубленная. Сладкий перец, капуста. Вот парслey я забыл, лук, чеснок наш домашний, буряки, свекла, картофан. Это вот американская такая пилер, чистить картошку, перец. Также у нас есть чеснок, который продается здесь в баночках, он уже порубленный. С химикатами, естественно, чтобы не портилось. Лавровый лист. Перец, соль. И вот уже, видите, вместо того, чтобы варить мясо, первая американская версия, это мы пользуемся этим broth, так называемый. Видите, это говяжий. То есть это уже заварка, так сказать. И вот chicken. Куриный, вот она смешала два каждого. Это примерно сколько? Почти литр, 907 грамм. То есть 4 литра broth already уже в кастрюле. То есть мясо варить не надо. Мы уже готовы к этому делу. Вот мы начинаем подготавливаться к приготовлению борща.
First step in our broth is a bay leaf. And I'm going to add, about 10 or 12 peppercorns. That'll season the broth. Then we're going to bring this to a boil. And in the meantime, we're going to peel potatoes. And those will go in first because they take the longest. So for us in America, whether you're left-handed or right-handed is dependent on how you peel. I peel away real quickly. It's a lot easier than a knife. But I also grew up peeling this way, and so I'm not very good with the knife. Okay, now we're going to chop the potatoes. I like to cut them in half. I use a large knife, makes it a lot easier. And then just cut them in a few strips. Depending on the dice that you want, I then cut them again. And then just do about bite-sized pieces. And I'll continue to do the rest of these, and then we will grate some beets. Okay, we've moved on to the beets now. I've chopped all the potatoes. Ordinarily, you would grate the beets like my husband's mother did, but I have a food processor, and it has different attachments, and I have a grater in there. So the beet is peeled, and I'm just going to fit them in here. I think I can do that. And we're going to grate them. We're done. It's a lot easier and faster than doing everything by hand. That's the beauty of it.
Вот быстро, да? That was fast.
So now I use red pepper. You can use green pepper, yellow pepper, just a small piece. I did about half of a large one. Ordinarily, I would grate the carrots right along with the beets, but because I happen to have some matchstick already, I'm just going to utilize this. So I'm going to be chopping up the red pepper and then some green onions, and we are going to fry those in a pan with some sunflower oil. And Sergey's going to talk to you about this while I chop.
Ну вот сейчас жена готовит так называемую зажарочку, да. И вот смотрите, какой был приятный сюрприз. Я в Walmart в местном как-то раз делал шопинг, и мне дико нравится наше украинское, скажем так, подсолнечное масло, которое не рафинированное. И вот я знал, что его никогда здесь не найти, кроме как на интернете. Но решил зайти в отдел, где продаются масла, и чуть у меня челюсть не отвисла, глаза не выпали от удивления. Стоит этот Imported Virgin Sunflower Oil, и на ней написано, что это продукт Украины. То есть кто-то через Канаду гонит украинское масло, видите, Product of Ukraine. И через Канаду гонят сюда. И вот супруга моя сейчас будет с помощью этого масла делать зажарку. Это будет лук, сладкий перец. That's about it.
Okay, we've moved on to the part where I'm going to add the potatoes to the boiling water, and then I'm going to fry up the green onions, the carrots, matchsticks, and the red pepper and the beets. But first I'm going to do these three things, and then I'll add the beets in and show you how I do that. So we're going to use some of the sunflower oil. I'm fairly generous with it. Let it heat up for a couple of minutes. And in the meantime, we're boiling nicely here. So we're just going to put the potatoes in. Hope I don't boil them to death myself. And obviously you can use less or more potato depending on how you like your borscht.
Борщ, ням-ням.
And then I just turn it down a little bit and let those boil. And in the meantime, this will warm up just a little bit more. Pretty painless.
Зажарочка.
Yeah, we'll cook that until it's nice and the onions have browned and the peppers are soft. Then I will add in the beets and then I'll show you how I do the rest of it. Yeah, okay. We've got the potatoes are boiling. I kind of turned the heat down a little bit and we're just going to watch them until they're almost soft and I can pierce them with a fork. And then we'll be adding the cabbage in, which I'm going to chop. These are our vegetables that we're sauteing. Takes probably at least 10 minutes or more on medium heat. They're just now starting to get a little bit soft. So I'm going to keep sauteing those until I can get some of them nice and brown, because that tastes better in the soup. And then I'll show you the next steps after that. So we'll just keep continuing to saute and potatoes to boil, and then we'll go from there. While the vegetables are sauteing and the potatoes are boiling, I'm going to chop a nice chunk of cabbage. It was a pretty large head. You can use as much as you'd like. I used almost a full half, not quite. And I'm just going to slice it. I like it in thinner slices, and then I cut them maybe once or so. A little bit longer, but thinner. And then I'm also going to chop up some fresh parsley. And this was fresh from our garden that we throw in the freezer, so I'm just going to chop that up and throw that in at the end. And okay, here is the chopped cabbage. Like I said, I shred it pretty thin and then I turn it and do it in half. I like it a little bit longer for the soup. Also chopped up some parsley. I probably will not use quite that much, maybe half, and then a pile of fresh dill. I also added some salt to the boiling potatoes. Broth here in the States, there's low sodium and regular. I tend to just purchase regular, so it's already a bit salty. So just, keeping that in mind when you salt your potatoes. We're starting to work here on our vegetables. They're almost to the point where I'm going to add the beets. I would just like the onions and the carrots to just be a little bit more colorful. And then I'm going to actually add about a spoonful of this already chopped garlic. And then we'll go from there. Okay, the potatoes are just soft enough that I'm going to add the cabbage. So just kind of break it up as you go, or I do, and get it in there. And then I will stir it around. And then we will work on the rest of our sauteed mix. Then I've turned this down from a full boil to more of a medium heat so that I'm not overcooking anything. So now, while the cabbage is going, let's move over here again. I like where the onions are at here. These carrots are a little larger because I didn't grate them, so I think this is as good as she gets without burning anything. So now what I'm going to do is take about a teaspoon, which is about a clove of garlic in here. mix it in. Then we're going to take our beets and mix them in. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting, is you want to stir this really well. And then what we're actually going to do is we're going to add some water to kind of steam down the beets and tenderize them. But in doing that, we kind of make almost a beet juice paste, which really helps flavor the soup. And there's a secret ingredient, which I'll show you. My mother-in-law showed me, is ketchup. So you have your tomato base, you have a little bit of vinegar, there's a little sugar in ketchup, so it works really, really well. If you don't have it, I'm imagining you could probably use some tomato paste, maybe a little vinegar. Now, what we're going to do is just add a little bit of water to this, and we're going to actually cover it. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't fit correctly. Just let it steam for a little bit, and then I'll show you when we add the ketchup. Okay. So this has been covered and been simmering for a few minutes in the water, which is helping the beets to, finish cooking and be soft. I'm at the point where I want to add my secret ingredient, or my ketchup. So let's take a nice big blob. I'd say it's close to 1/4 cup in truth. Stir that in nicely. I think I'm going to add a tad more. It's totally by taste and what you feel. And then what happens is I'm going to cover it and steam it just a few minutes more, and it just makes a really great paste with the ketchup and the water and really flavors my base. So we're going to give that about 5 more minutes, and then we'll go ahead and add the finished ingredient and you'll get to see the results. Okay, we're ready now, which you can see the beets are soft and quite a bit of the liquid is absorbed. Normally there's a little more, but I had an interruption, so I had to stop. So now what I want to do, the cabbage is cooked through. It's nice and tender, so I'm going to add all of these delicious bits. And I actually scrape it out. And then, because I really like all that flavor, I take a scoop of the liquid and I just kind of swing it around so I'm not missing anything. And that is done. Now basically the soup is ready to go. The cabbage has been cooked, potatoes are done. You do not need to boil the beets, they're already soft. I am going to add in, of course, the dill and the parsley. And then I am going to turn the heat back on just for a minute because I turned it off, just to warm everything up together. And then essentially we are done. Okay, so the borscht is ready. It's all warmed. We're going to put some in a cup, in a bowl here for you so that you can see the end product. Has a great deep red broth. And of course the traditional sour cream. And some good homemade bread, although this is not homemade. And you're ready to go. Nobody will be sorry.
Ну вот такое достаточно длинное видео, но видите, как моя супруга придумала так называемый shortcut, упрощение рецепта приготовления украинского красного борща, или свеклового борща, или бурякового борща. So red beet борщ, да, красного, red beet, красные буряки, красная свекла. Ну все, всем спасибо за внимание. Интересно, как ваши впечатления. Пишите комментарии. Всем пока.